Hi folks, this is Tim Garman for SIT on NZDP101. I'm going to just have a quick look at the Camera Raw interface. Now this is not going to be a guide as to how Camera Raw works. You'll find more information on that on the Blackboard course. But let's have a quick look at the interface. So at the bottom left we have the film strip, and if you've opened more than one image you'll have them all lined up across the bottom. Now that thumbnail image is quite useful because in each one of them, there's only one here, but if you have more, each one will have a separate little menu in the corner. And that's quite useful because there's a few things you can do here. One of the most useful things I find is marking for deletion. So if you take a lot of photographs, as we tend to do with digital, you can check through them and delete some that you don't want to keep. We can also turn the film strip on and off with these icons at the bottom. These other two are different ways of labeling. You've also got some different size options for viewing. Across the bottom on the right here we've got some options for viewing our different edits. So we can do a kind of a before and after view. And we've got different layout options as well. Going to the top right, this is our menu panel. At the very top we've got the histogram, very useful tool. Have a look at details of that in your study guide. And in the two left and right corners we've got the indicators for shadow clipping and highlight clipping. Then coming down underneath that, we've got a quick route to turning to black and white. We've got some quick steps for auto adjustments and your high dynamic range. Then we've got the profile settings. Coming down here further, each of these tabs opens up and has various sliders. Under light we've got exposure. And dealing with shadows and highlights, blacks and whites. And when you do change something, the eye symbol becomes available and you can toggle between before and after. So if you hold it down continuously, you'll get the previous version. The other thing is to say on these sliders, you double click them, that resets them to the default setting in the center. Color and vibrancy saturation options with white balance setting. You can also set your white balance by using the eyedropper to click on the image, and again you've got the eye symbol in the corner. Effects, you've got texture, clarity, dehaze for bringing out a bit more definition. You can set a vignette and adjust grain settings as well, and those last two have further adjustments if we click on the arrows on the right. We've got a color curve. Now there is a more detailed guide into Camera Raw, as I mentioned, and that will go into how that works. And we've got a color mixer for adjusting individual tones of those various colors. We've also got targeted adjustments. If we use this tool here, click into the image, and you'll see that as you click and drag, it'll target those particular areas and adjust the sliders. Let's put those back to where they were. Color grading. This used to be called split toning. Again, this will be dealt with in one of the weeks in the 101 course. Detail allows us to tackle noise reduction, and we can go specifically into more detail as we play with these sliders and look at particular areas of our image. We've also got sharpening under detail, optics for lens adjustments, Lens blur is a new tool in Camera Raw, and if we click apply, we see we get various different effects applied to the image. And you might find that some of them work better with perhaps a more obvious subject in the image. But we select one. We also have a tool for boosting and blur amount to just adjust the amount of effect that those effects have. Geometry, let's have a quick look at that. We'll open that up, and if I start to use these sliders, you'll begin to see what they do straight away. Double click to recenter, rotate. So I won't go through all of those, but have a play with those and explore those for yourself. We have some shortcut routes to those as well across the top. Lastly, calibration. I just want to call your attention to the version and just make sure it's on the current version, which is version 6. You might find if you open an older image that that's set to an older version, and you can just update it to the current version. And although I suggest we leave these, but you can actually adjust how those are looking as well. Then over on the far right, we've got some further tools. The second one down is a crop tool, similar to how it works in Photoshop itself. If I select it, then that'll explain the first icon, which just takes you back to the beginning again. The healing tab gives you a content aware removal tool and also a healing tool. Now both these tools will edit areas or specific areas of your image. The last tool is a cloning tool, which we also have in Photoshop, and we've got some controls over size and the feather of our brush as well as opacity. Next one down is masking. Again, have a look at the Camera Raw tutorial on Blackboard. Then we've got a tool for dealing with red eye, obviously in portraits. The snapshots tab is a useful tool for creating a snapshot of an image up to a certain point in your editing. And then you can carry on editing and create a second snapshot and compare the two. We've got some presets which will give you some ready-made edits. And lastly, the 3 dots at the bottom, which is actually quite useful, particularly if you want to jump back to a previous setting. So for instance, if I went back to an exposure and I decided I wanted to go back to my original setting, I can go to those 3 dots and choose restore to default, and that will take us back to the original version of our image. At the bottom we've got some fairly clear tools. There are magnifying glass and mover tool. We've got an eyedropper, and we can set a grid as well. Just to point out, let's just move that back into screen. Just to point out at the bottom, we have got a done button which will close Camera Raw. Now often we want to take our image into Photoshop and continue working on it. So that would be open object that you want there. So done will actually close the image. Just at the bottom we've got the link to the Camera Raw preferences or options menu, and it also contains some information about the image. If we click on there, we've got a bunch of preferences and settings we can set up. It by default it starts at the workflow, which gives us an opportunity to check that we can open in Photoshop as a smart object. Just make sure that this box is checked.